Hey everyone, my name is Junior Mokoma and I'm a copywriter at Avatar, and I'm also one of the members of the Loeries Youth Committee for 2024 and 2025. Mad excited to start this year. So my sort of like artistic start, right? How I fell in love with art and how it started. I used to draw a lot, and it was a thing that I used to do with some of my friends from school. We used to draw Dragon Ball Z characters, your Gokus, Gohans, and it became like a really cool thing that I just sort of like was attracted to and geared towards. And then I remember a cousin of mine, he also used to draw. So we'd like look at his cars and he used to draw with a pen. I'm like, oh, it'd be cool to draw without erasing, right? And then at some point, I found myself helping my friends in my classroom draw as well. And then that became a thing for quite some time. I remember though, my oldest brother was like, I'll never make money drawing.
You won't get paid for this.
He's like, you'll only be famous when you die, right? And that was, I think, after Michael Jackson had passed. And like, look at Michael Jackson, he's only more famous now, type of a thing. And then, yeah, and then I think as time went on, I got to high school and I could still draw, I still loved drawing. And then I started writing poetry, I think in grade 9. We had an English assignment. Then I wrote this poem called I'm a 13-year-old boy. And my teacher at the time thought I went to Google to copy that poem.
So why don't you save us both a lot of time? And tell me how you cheated.
And I was like, no. And then it just became a thing where, no, bro, I can actually write. And then at some point, a friend of mine used to write poetry in class as well. Then he had a flip file of like a whole lot of poems. And then now it started becoming like a competition, right? We can write more lovey-dovey poems, you know, and then we can look cool. And then that's where my love for writing started. And then I think growing up in the Vaal, how that helped shape some of my experiences is you grow up around a neighborhood that's low-key closed, you know, because Sebokeng has pockets, but it's also very open because those pockets of people also interact with each other. So from a very early age, you learn how to be confident and you learn how to express yourself, and then, yeah, just not to fear anything or anyone. So within the creative space, how that has helped me is it has just allowed me to be as confident as I possibly can be. And then even when I moved out of the Vaal moving to Benoni and, you know, having interacted with people from Pretoria and then Soweto, so just like around Gauteng, you just learn to be confident and you move with that. And I think that's one key thing that has also helped me in how I approach creativity. So, I mean, the role that storytelling plays in creativity, and I think particularly in the advertising industry, is you need to learn how to, well, first and foremost, a lot of people receive information with storytelling, right? And that's certainly in my experience and how I understand things, right? People receive information in storytelling. If you say something interesting about your background, right? Let's say, oh no, I grew up in Eldos, right? Then it's like, okay, what about Eldos that's interesting for you, right? Then it's like, no, I grew up in Eldos in this section, and this is the sort of like people I used to hang around with, and this is what their outlook on life is, and this is how we sort of like grew up together, and this is why I'm the way I am. So it's like, there's always a piece of information within storytelling that allows you to, one, tell us who you are, and then two, tell us a bigger part of what your story is. And I think within the advertising space, for me, what I've always loved about storytelling is using your own language to tell a story, right? Like even when you're selling products, if you inject a little bit of who you are and where you're from, you are literally representing a group of people that perceived advertising as something that could have been far-fetched for them. Whether it's from a product that they think they never understood or that they think it's too far away from them, to actually, I can buy that because this ad speaks to me in the way that I speak, right? And yeah, and I think when you use your own language, and even if part of how you explain things in vernac, you have like the English part that's mixed with Zulu and then mixed with Sotho and then Pedi and then Venda. It just makes it so much more richer and quite interesting because that's how South African people speak, right? And I've noticed and found out that a lot of the times within how we tell stories, there's almost one way of approaching it, and I'm like, that's not how we really speak, right? There are people who speak formal Zulu, but perhaps in how people speak every day, it's not as formal as we'd like to think it is. You know, there are people who speak Sotho like I do, and even in how we speak every single day is not as deep as it would be in Lesotho, right? So being able to mix that part of how I speak and where I come from with how I sell a product, for me, it makes the bigger part of the story very interesting to understand as well. So, yeah. What attracted me to Avatar? I think when I was in third year, I'd heard about Avatar, right? So I think at the time it was around about, it was in, maybe 2015. And the agency was by Rosebank, if I'm not mistaken. So I'd heard, black agency, they're doing cool things. But I think at the time you sort of like put them, behind you, because you're like, well, I don't get to interact with anyone from that agency. The only time I hear about it was when people say black agencies, right? And I was very curious, but I don't know why, I just never could get access in. And then fast forward to a couple of years later, I think Vaal was writing Young Black and Young. And I was always like, geez, I wanna be on that. And then I think that's when I learned that, oh, okay, cool. So this guy is at Avatar, right? And then you hear that like the agency's doing well, the agency's growing. And then I'm like, okay, cool. It'd be really, really cool to be black and be a part of a black agency, right? Because maybe that's where some of these insights can really come to life. And then fast forward to last year, then okay, cool, Avatar's doing quite well. And I had a conversation with them, and then boom, here I am, I'm with them now. So I think what has been really interesting for me being here was how open and lively the people are. And I think even in how we work, right, everyone is very collaborative. People have a lot of collaborative energy in how they approach work, and it's just been amazing for me. It's been amazing. And then I think agencies like Avatar are quite cool in that I don't know of a lot of black agencies that compete internationally, and this is one of the local agencies that wants to start competing internationally in terms of the big award stage, right? Like your Cannes and your DNADs, and to really find yourself in that space and place as a black agency with black people in it, creating work that's rich for black people in platforms that big. For me, it's a massive not dent per se, but it's a huge achievement to try to work towards, and I think it is possible. So yeah. Well, some of the biggest industry trends that I've seen within the advertising landscape, especially in South Africa, is there's a big movement right now of kindness, right? And I know for me, when I started, I think that's when it sort of like started, like, you know, this whole idea of gentle parenting, right? So I think when I started in the industry, there was a lot of that from my mentors at the time, who fortunately I can still reach out to. So like your Ahmeds, Tili, your Suhana, Gordon, really, really cool people who they had that gentle parenting about just like being kind, you know? And then Bonolo Modise as well. And when you see that kindness, you are also kinder to yourself, because the industry is extremely competitive, right? So you're also very competitive with yourself. So when you have people who are like, yes, strive for all these things, and the way in which they speak to you and give you critique and feedback on your work is more building than damaging. And I think now there's a lot of that I'm noticing within the industry. People are just kinder, you know? And even when you're having a bad day, you're kind to the next person, you know? So I really love that, because I think with kindness, so much can be achieved just by being kind, bro. Like, just be kind, you know? And in how you interact with people, with clients, even with your colleagues, you build at every single point, and at every opportunity that you get, you just build and build and build more than you just take away from people or destroy people. And that has been, I think, my biggest takeout, and I still see it happening. It's like happening in a larger scale now, you know, and I think it's really dope. So what does being recognized by an entity like Loeries for creatives mean? Especially for like aspiring creatives. I think, man, it's a big deal. It's a big deal, and I think it's a big deal because currently in our country, Loeries is the biggest advertising forum in our country, and then you have Africa, and then you have the Middle East, right? So to have a little bit of a nod from an entity like that also sets trends, and by trends I mean these are the people that award pieces of work that are like the heartbeat of South African culture, you know, the heartbeat of what the upcoming trends are within how we sell, within how we speak, you know? And to get a nod from them as someone who's young and upcoming within the industry, it's a massive honor, right? Like it's just a big deal, you know? And I think you take it with pride, and what you genuinely want to do with such an opportunity is just to make sure that you show up, and that's it. You show up every day, you show up in what the standard is, you show up in what is required from you, right? And the fact that you even have access to this network of people, right? It means that it's something that you can also, outside of plugging into, you can also take this access and network and give it to other people as well, you know? So it's not just a thing for one individual. So I think it's just a big deal. Yeah. So what it means to me to be a part of the Loeries Youth Committee is that, one, I get to shape what this industry looks like tomorrow, right? I get to shape what it looks like for upcoming people. I get to take the conversations that I had on the side, right, about the industry and have an impact on that and make a difference. So to me, it's more about, again, you know, like those conversations about what's happening at this, with like the seat at the table, or you know what I mean? It's like now you actually have an opportunity to make that difference. And as young as you are, your voice matters, you know, and as
you matter and your story matters.
Mntwana yako Valley, and then, you know, you're just like, bro, I get to represent all of these people who genuinely feel like they have no say at all, right? And then you get to these creative institutions, and then you're like, you don't feel like you have a voice yet, but you find it and you work through it, right? And then you also get into agencies, and then you continue to find your voice and work through it. And now you genuinely have a say, and you can't misrepresent anyone, you know, and you just know that this opportunity is more about other people as much as it is about you. So even for me, it's quite big to know that I have a say, and outside of just having a say, I have a responsibility now to act and do and solve the problems that we usually just talk about and feel as though, no, the industry won't change, or this is how things have always been. So now it's an opportunity to work through those things amongst other like-minded people in this massive network and make sure that things do happen. So, I mean, the advice that I'd like to give to young creatives who are upcoming within the industry is, don't be afraid to be yourself. It's tough, but just keep being yourself, bro. And don't be afraid to say you don't know. I think a lot of the times what happens is we think we know, right? We genuinely think we know. We genuinely think we are running with things because we know, but we don't always know. And it's okay to not know, right? But it's also okay to fight for an idea. It's also okay to challenge people and be challenged as well. But never, ever try to be someone else who you are not. Just stay true to yourself, and that's it. So, I mean, how to maintain work-life balance and how do I do it? I think it's very tough to achieve work-life balance. Like, I genuinely feel like it's tough. It's not the easiest thing, especially because we work in an industry that's quite fast-paced, right? And it demands all the time. So what I've learned is there's a way of integrating, though, right, your work into your lifestyle, which maybe, again, this is where it's tough, right? Because within work-life balance, I think the assumption is everything is equal, right? You go to work 9 to 5, you go home this time and that time, you have friends this time and this time, you have weekends this time, and it's like within our line of work that does not necessarily exist, unless I suppose it's probably in corporate. But within our space, it's because like when you're only finished when the work is done. That's it. So you just have to find ways of integrating your life with your work. So how I do it, like I play soccer for a club, and I do all these other things and activities. So what I do is, if I'm at work from 9 to 5, I'll do my work from 9 to 5, but I also find inspiration between 9 to 5. And even in places where I go, I just question stuff. I'm just curious about stuff. And when I find something quite interesting, I'm like, oh, I can bridge this with something that I'm currently doing at work. Or I can bridge this with an idea that I want to do for my client at work. And then sometimes after playing soccer, so let's say 9 to 5, after 5, go play soccer. After playing, that's just like my 2 hours of, I had to break away from this thing, right? Then when I come back and I switch on, then I'm on for however long that I need to be on for. And then when I'm with my people, I'm with my people, and it's like, I'm not with my people from 9 to 5. I'm with my people from a specific time to specific time. And then in all those moments, for me, what I do is just draw as much inspiration as I can, because I'm able to just switch off work within those little pockets of time. And then from those moments, I can bring whatever experiences that I have into work. So it's like nothing is left out to say, that's only reserved for that, and that's only reserved for that. It's like an understanding that they actually all work together, because either way, the ideas that we come up with come from the experiences that we face. So yeah, I just integrate as much as I possibly can, and yeah. Look, man, I think for me, I genuinely wanna leave the industry better, and whatever better looks like, right? And better for me is whatever that I found to be good, to make it better, you know? So I found kind people in the industry, like mad kind people. So I should just be kinder, right? I found people within the industry who are able to open doors for me, right? So I can do that for somebody else, you know? So the things that unfortunately other people go through that are bad, I haven't experienced. Like I haven't experienced, I don't know, a creative director shouting at me or telling me I'm trash, you know? So I think what helps in that is maybe when I see it, I can call it out, and calling it out doesn't mean embarrassing the person. It can mean approaching that conversation with kindness as well. I'm like, hey man, just, did you notice you did this, you know? And because I'm one to say I love a good time, like just a good time, I genuinely want everyone around me to be able to be themselves, to be extremely happy, and to just do amazing work, you know? Because I believe the happier we are, the more good work we do. I don't know how, it's just something that I just believe in. And that doesn't mean being happy takes away from the creativity. It just means you are happier to explore other territories, because there's no way, like limitless, no? There's no limits, right? You don't just limit yourself to say, I want to do this, but I'm scared. You're like, no, I want to do this, and I don't know, let's see. But you're happy in doing that because it doesn't take away from who you are and the overall experience. So I just want to make sure that the impact that I have is just be you, bro, and help people really get into themselves and bring out the best of themselves. And yeah, to just make sure that they're also kind and they're also stern. You can be stern and kind, you know. And yeah, that's really it.